Greetings from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, I have one or two announcements to make. I am afraid we had a little bit of an accident here. I'm going to post a photograph of it because it will give you a taste of what has happened. We had a fire and quite a lot of stuff was burnt and I've taken a photograph of some of it. Unfortunately, it was my pile of letters with some presents, and not all, but some, and all my thank you letters that I was preparing to tell Roger to answer on my behalf, because the truth is I am so busy I do not have the time to answer my correspondence. And you can see, for instance, somebody sent me this when Treasure died as a memento. That's how far out of time I am with catching up on correspondence. Another person sent me this absolutely beautiful, wonderful stick pin of a blackamoor. Somebody sent me this book, which is Sir Percy Florence Shelley, BT, Mary and Percy Shelley's son. It's called The Adventures of Haji Baba. And somebody was kind enough to send it to me. Fortunately, it got only very slightly singed. Why I say all of this is that I have had so many wonderful presents that we were going to be responding to, but I wanted to give Roger instructions to personalize each reply. And I'm sorry. They were in a pile and they caught on fire. Not funny. So, how I come to all of this is Joyce Cutner asked me. I was going to actually get around to it, but this was the ideal time to do it. Nice pig with lipstick. Where did you get that from, Lady C? Huh. I wish I knew. I wish I knew. It's all gone up in smoke. I'm sorry. So everybody, please bear with me. I'm not an ingrate. I just couldn't believe it. I'm not even sure how it happened, which is quite disturbing. But the less said about it beyond this, the better. The nitwit says, I did not do much work with neonates, but it's all but impossible to kill anyone, big block capitals, with a venous air ambulance. This refers to the Lucy Letby case. And I am going to ask Sean to post a link to a petition which I started to ask the Lord Chancellor, who is also the Minister for Justice, to speed up the inquiry into her conviction, because we recently had 14 of the most eminent doctors in the world, including Dr. Shu Lee, who flew over from Canada at his own expense because during Lucy Letby's trial, his research on air embolisms was used incorrectly to convict her. Now, I appreciate rather more than most people the sensitivities involved in a matter where somebody has been tried for a capital offence and found guilty. My grandfather was done away with. My father was shot at point blank range and nearly done away with. My brother-in-law was done away with. I'll stop there. The point I'm making is I know from personal experience how awful it is when you have to deal with the fact that somebody has been evil enough to dispatch a loved one. The parents also need this cleared up, because those 14 doctors have declared that not one of those infants died of anything but negligence, bad treatment, natural causes, all of which were misinterpreted by the incompetent staff at the Countess of Chester Hospital. And it is truly appalling that a young woman can be serving 7 life sentences without the possibility of release for a crime that never happened even once. So, and the way in this country justice runs, she will be there for years while they trundle through with arguments. Oh, well, we'd better not speed this up because the public will lose confidence in the justice system. The public will gain confidence in the justice system if she is the board that needs to look at her conviction to declare it unsafe, speeds it up. The longer it takes is the worse it is, not only for her and for all of the parents involved, but for us, the British people, with our justice system. So, having said that, I will now plunge into rather less distressing matters. Jan Siegel Lambert says, Markle is truly a disturbing and deeply disturbed person. Her latest post clearly demonstrates how unbalanced and out of touch she truly is. Sophie in Nepal, Catherine and William working with young people in London, and she acts in front of her own cell phone, megaphoning herself and others. Efforts she gleans as her own opportunity again. She is a sad, disturbed, crass user of anyone, anything that jettisons herself into the limelight. She did it here in Canada, and she's coming soon again to Canada. And because I'm going to answer these in one. Vim to Rules says, typical of Meaghan to put social media post up because Princess Catherine is getting media coverage. Meghan behaving like a fool, jumping around and clapping. Oh, I'm so girlish. I am just so girlish. I'm so sweet and innocent, and I'm so enthusiastic. And do you know what I did? I got the most wonderful thing. I don't know Billie Eilish at all, but I managed to get people to find, because I'm so humble that I have to remind you that I don't know everybody, but I am so humble to remind you of how unimportant I am, that I'm going to make the point that I can reach anybody, and I did. And I got through my people to get in touch with Billie Eilish, and Billie Eilish gave a t-shirt to a girl who, and I'm not wonderful, and I'm so proud of myself. And also, I actually have to tell you that, I'm just so moved by what I did, and I hope all of you are moved as well, because I'm so just touched and sweet. And my hand movements are those of an 8-year-old girl, and my voice is sounding like a 13-year-old, maybe going on 14. I'm so just enthused by the whole thing of how wonderful I was. But let me continue reading the question. Meghan behaving like a fool, jumping around and clapping because merch has arrived in the form of a t-shirt and a lunchbox from a singer called Billie Eilish. This is for a young girl Meghan met when she was up at the fires a few weeks ago. The young girl was with her mother and was so upset that she had lost a t-shirt. But sleep easy, folks. Meghan to the rescue. She used her famous friends to contact Billie Eilish, and et voila. Trouble is, residents of that area were denied access to their homes. So I have a feeling we have another case of recollections-may-vary. Fact: Billie Eilish and her brother are represented by William Morris Endeavour. Isn't Meghan? By the skin of her teeth. Yes, the question is, how could Meghan have met the residents whose houses had burnt down when they were banned from returning to their homes? She's also never thought that if her act was one of genuine kindness and not a total fantasy, along with the many other fantasies to which she has treated us, that she might be humiliating the girl because the girl didn't want her paltry treasure to be revealed to the world. She might have thought, she might be embarrassed by that. One would be, possibly. Also, since when were acts of kindness confessed into a microphone for the world to know before she even gave the stuff to the putative girl? Well, let me tell you what I've been told. William Morris Endeavour have told Meghan she needs to make herself more relatable, more likeable, more approachable, and more palatable. Otherwise, nobody is going to swallow the guff that she's going to be serving up on. With love, Meghan. Oh, it's so wonderful. One tear left eye. I'm just moved. Can you imagine? I was so moved that I got my agents. But of course, I haven't said that to get in touch with Billie Eilish's agents, and they're the same people or the same company. And they did it. Am I not wonderful? And let's not forget that Meaghan is following instructions. So that's progress. So William Morris Endeavour is getting through to her, as is Netflix. Tone it down. So she appears without makeup. Clappy, clappy. Oh, I'm 8 years old and just, I'm so enthusiastic. And also, let's remember that Bella Baharia, the chief content officer of Netflix, waded in earlier this week to, of course, the Mail, because remember, Harry and the Mail have had serious conflict. Well, the Mail is at the moment being Harry and Meghan's mouthpiece. And Bella Baharia, confided would be a better word, to the Mail, just so that all their readers would know. And I'm going to quote what she said. We have Meghan's new show coming out, which is great. It is such a great take on a lifestyle show and showcase for California, Montecito, and nature. It really has great takeaways. Aurora, Mickey, bring me that tikka masala that's being dropped off by the local takeaway company. Oh, I think she most likely meant a different sort of takeaway. However, Netflix have yet to confirm, now this is me, that the adaptation of Meet Me at the Lake will be released at all, because it's still in development. Maybe it's in development like one of Meghan's pregnancies. Julia Maitland says, if methane has deceived everyone regarding her pregnancies, it will come back to bite her on the bum. It might not be today or tomorrow, but it surely will. If she had to use surrogates and been more honest, I'm sure most right-thinking people would have been sympathetic, but she was more concerned to get one over the royal family. Well, that's your opinion, and as I have pointed out before, I am very attached to my money, and I intend to remain totally connected to it. And therefore, I am not going to be asserting that those children were actually born of surrogates and born by surrogates. I am not going to make that accusation directly, outright. No. If you wish to think that, Julia Maitland, you are well within your rights to do so, because Meghan's conduct has been such that I'd fail to see how reasonable people could come to any other conclusion. However, you're absolutely right to be speculative and hypothetical. If any member of the royal family who could not produce children wished to avail himself or herself of the services of a surrogate and had been honest about it, they would have got a lot of sympathy, and from many, if not all quarters, a lot of admiration. But the babies would not have been in the line of succession, and the babies would not be able to accede to any of their father's titles. They would only be able to have courtesy titles. So, being speculative, if, say, the Duchess of Windsor in the next creation should be unable to carry children, and she and her husband, the Duke of Windsor, decided to have children by surrogates, the child would be Lord whatever Windsor, or if he were the grandson of the monarch, the Duke of Windsor were the grandson of the monarch, the child would be Lord whatever Mountbatten Windsor. And if it were a girl, Lady whatever Windsor, but the child of a grandson of the monarch would be Lady whatever Mountbatten Windsor. That's how it works legally. Grandma Pom Pom says, I'd never heard of Blake Lively until her cruel pylon regarding the Princess of Wales's illness in 2024. That was enough for me to identify her as a mean girl. Well, now that all of this has blown up, I've got to tell you, I have been looking at some of her interviews. What a cow! I mean, the woman is poisonous. She is so nasty, gratuitously nasty. She's so abrasive and condescending. She has a personality disorder, in my view. Private Me says, can you do updates on Blake / Justin? I don't care about anything else. LOL. Well, yes, I can do a little update. I mean, I did post this on X, so I don't know what you've read or what you've heard that I've done. And I know an awful lot of people are doing really excellent work. Candice Owens, Perez Hilton, somebody called Gerta Flaw or something like that. I think she's Norwegian. Andy Signor from Popcorn Planet, he's doing excellent work as well. Dan Wooten, Megan Kelly, so a load of people are. Well, I'm sorry, I'm too busy to look at them, but I have looked at some of the interviews. My goodness, the woman is vile, absolutely vile. She is so disrespectful. She is so ill-mannered. She is so up her own you-know-what that she's meeting breakfast before it has been bought, much less consumed. Well, I am told that both she and he are under medical supervision, that they fear, is in danger of cracking up, and that she has taken very badly the fact that if it proceeds to depositions, she's going to be deposed by Brian Friedman. Well, I wonder why there's been a clear out on Brian Friedman dolls and pins to stick in them, the voodoo dolls. I wonder why. This is a joke, by the way. But evidently, she is absolutely terrified and one step away from totally cracking up. Good. As the Jamaicans say, you spit in the sky, it will fall in your eye. She deserves everything she's going to get. And so does he. What else have I been told? Because I actually have been focusing on other stuff today, I have to tell you. Cracking up. Oh, the marriage is not expected to last because they are expected to be wiped out. At the moment, William Morris Endeavour is with them. They got rid of Justin Baldoni, and it turns out that the PR, their PR, is married to one of the senior guys at William Morris Endeavour. But my information is William Morris Endeavour is looking with one eye to the exit and the other to the boardroom table. They all suspect that there is no way that this is not going to result in the devastation of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' careers. Because I understand they would love to settle now. Evidently, they did not intend to sue initially. They intended initially to make a civil complaint. But the whole thing has got out of hand, and Justin Baldoni and a Wayfarer, and I think his name is James Heath, and the other one whose name I don't remember. Very difficult name for me to remember. Sorry, I don't remember it. The Wayfarer guys, they are not prepared to settle at this point. They understand that Justin Baldoni is totally in the right, and they want Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds to pay the price, especially as how, wait for it, Ryan Reynolds also evidently went after Wayfarer because Wayfarer gave his ex-wife, Scarlett Johansson, the opportunity to direct a movie called Eleanor the Great. So, I was told Ryan Reynolds was going to kill two birds with one stone. Justin Baldoni, of whom he's tremendously jealous, and his ex-wife, the one that got away, because evidently Scarlett Johansson is very intelligent, very independent, not superficial the way Blake Lively is, because Blake Lively is evidently very superficial. She's all about the money and the position, and Scarlett Johansson evidently is the highest paid actress in the world. And she has her feet very firmly on the ground. And the marriage turned out to be an increasing strain, and being polite, because he wanted her to be a Stepford wife, but a Stepford wife whom he adored. So she was supposed to be perfect, and oh, I'm so feminine, and rather shades of Meaghan actually. That he wanted her to be very feminine and just so childish and immature. Well, he doesn't mind them though if they're mean with it, which Blake Lively is. But evidently, Scarlett Johansson is A, not mean, and B, wasn't going to play the game. And so who swans along? Flashing approval. Yes, please. Blake Lively. So he's going to destroy Justin Baldoni's career, and he's going to ruin Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut. Oh dear, oh dear. Can this really be true? I leave you with that thought. MTM says, Lady C, I'm eager to hear your opinion on President Trump's proposal for Gaza. I find your discussions on the Middle East very interesting. And Maria Gillinson says, Dear Lady Colin Campbell, what do you think about Trump taking over Gaza, clearing all the bodies of murdered children and innocent people in the bombed buildings and building a Middle East Riviera? No doubt to install the Israeli government, and he will put a Trump building to grab all the filthy rich Arabs. The estimate of what the Israeli government has done is that it will take 14 years to clear the bombs, human remains and rubble in a continuous 24 in trucks. Well, what is my opinion? I cannot believe this is a serious proposition. I would find it difficult to reconcile any claim by the United States or any other country in the world to territory that has been Palestinian since the beginning of time. The Israelites in the Old Testament were never in Gaza. The days of a great power just going and seizing the territory of people who are indigenous to the region and imposing one's will are over. This is not the 19th century. Colonialism is a thing of the past, and also, with a few notable exceptions, for instance, Hawaii, the United States of America's imperialistic tendencies have never actually extended to seizing territory and effectively colonizing it. This would be such a recipe for ongoing trouble, not only with America's enemies, but with America's allies. Now, what is interesting is that if it's just an idea floated, a negotiating tool, because remember, Trump is the great negotiator, at least in his mind, and he's actually a far better negotiator than many other less predictable leaders, because he's very pragmatic, and I see where he has actually very Bismarckian and Metternichian uh, and aspects to his thinking. But this is not 19th century Europe. This is 21st century, the world. It's not, if it would cause so many problems. But what is a possible solution? As I have said before, is the imposition of a state that is internationally acknowledged and protected by pretty much common agreement throughout the world. An American colony, so the Arabian Riviera with orchards. He and Meaghan must be actually getting together. Arabian Riviera orchards and palm trees and all these wonderful things that we just love. Oh, and Trump power as well as Trump Tower. It's not feasible. However, by introducing the unthinkable, he makes it thinkable and makes some other more practicable as well as practical solution possible. So that at least is my hope. Let's put it that way. Isabella says, "That's true, Lady C. Ukraine joined the Nazis, but you said that Ukraine never really existed and was really Russia. So which one is true, Lady C? I'm being scolded. Bad me! Was Ukraine an entity in 1939 or not? Apparently Ukraine went against Poland, which as a country never supported Nazis. Ukraine also went against Russia, who originally conspired with Germany to invade and divide Poland, but then turned against Germany. So was Ukraine a separate political identity in 1939? You should be gifted a book of Ukrainian history, Lady C. Isabella, this is the definitive work by the definitive world's expert on Ukraine as it stands at the moment. Hubris by Professor Jonathan Haslam. Inscribed to me. He was a house guest of mine last weekend. Chatham House rules prevail, so I'm not going to say to you anything that we might or might not have spoken about. What I will say, though, is of my own personal knowledge about Ukraine. First of all, I don't know who you've been listening to or what you've been reading, but since you have been forthcoming enough to try to point out to me that I don't know what I'm talking about and you know what you're talking about, may I point out that the First Division of Poland was in the days of Frederick the Great, when there was no such thing as Germany, and Maria Theresa of Austria and the Russian Tsar, and Germany did not exist until 1870 or 71, I think it was, I can't remember exactly when. It was either the end of 1870 or the beginning of 1871. I could check, but I can't be bothered. Germany didn't exist as a country. Prussia was the main German kingdom in those days. As for Poland, long before Russia existed as a country, there was a far greater and more powerful state called the Commonwealth of Poland and Lithuania. And Kiev was Polish. Then Kiev ultimately became Russian. In fact, the Dowager Empress of Russia left St. Petersburg when she disapproved of what her daughter-in-law and son were doing and went to her palace in Kiev. This was during the First World War, at which time part of the territory that is called Ukraine, and Ukraine in Russian means border, just so you know. And the other part of it, Galicia, for instance, much of Galicia was in Austria. As part of the Austrian Empire. So, I'm not quite sure what you're speaking about, because there was no such thing as a Ukrainian state as it existed after 1922, because it is an amalgam of former Polish territory, that former Russian territory, former Austrian territory. Lvov, for instance, was known as Lemberg. That was Austrian. Kiev was originally created by as a great state by Rurik, who was a northerner who came down and occupied Kiev and they had this state, the state of Rus. There's a clue there for the Russian people. Think about it for a second, Isabella. The Russian people. Does that give you a hint as to how long before there was a Russian state? There was the state of Rus by Rurik, whose incidentally descendant was also here last weekend. One of the Lobanov-Rostovsky princes. Oh dear, my ignorance is just so monumental. I really don't know how I can face the world. And the first time that there was a state of Ukraine was after the First World War in 1918. If I remember correctly, November 1918. The war ended in November 1918. And immediately afterwards, there was a declaration of a part of what you would call Ukraine was declared to be an independent state. And then it was called the Western Ukrainian People's Republic. And I think it lasted until July 1919, by which time it was absorbed into Poland primarily. Only in 1991, with the downfall of the Soviet Union, did we have what is the piecemeal, patched up state of Ukraine in its present form. Yes, after 1919, when ultimately it became obvious to the Western powers that the White Army, headed up by Admiral Kolchak, was going to lose the Russian Civil War, and the Red Army. Do you remember somebody called Lenin and somebody called Stalin? I think you might. Well, at that point, the Western powers realized they would pull out, and Ukraine was absorbed as one of the republics of Russia, called in those days the Soviet Union. And the rest of it was in Poland. So I don't think I need to belabor the point any further. I'm very happy to have rational discussions. I'm certainly happy to exchange knowledge. But I really don't think I need to be scolded as to my lack of knowledge by somebody whose ignorance is so obvious. So, thank you very much for the scolding, but you have given me the opportunity to tell everybody else, as well as you, if you're listening, why what you said was utter rubbish. And we will end with, on a much more pleasant and agreeable note, with VIICCD. Lady C, as a fan, let me ask you please to read out the following. And I'm going to read it out. It's really sending me up. When I say rarely, it sounds like rarely. One rarely hears such a really rare accent. Also, please say, hair is the hair whose hair I hear is rarely rare. And finally, I have nothing to fear but a bus fare. Thank you. My pleasure. I'm very happy to be sent up and to send myself up. Thank you very much for that. And on that note, I'll say thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in so I will know what you would like us to be speaking about. Thank you so much. Take good care and Godspeed. Oh, and incidentally, to those of you who missed the photograph that was so badly posted, Sean was not feeling well, so we'll cut him some slack. Maybe Aurora can run down and release the chains. Says I being wicked. Anyway, yeah, Sean wasn't feeling well, and we're gonna post the photograph again of the Joyce Devlin portrait. Okay? And so that's the last thing you'll see. Thank you so much. Godspeed and goodbye. And if you have truly enjoyed this, would you care to like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and take good care. Bye-bye.